Hey there, and welcome back to ClearPath Conversations. I'm Mark Bernardin. In the last episode, we talked about stakeholder mapping when everyone changes. We walked through how to navigate turnover, reorgs, and shifting power structures without losing momentum on your accounts. We covered how to identify new decision makers, rebuild influence maps, and maintain continuity even when half your champion network just disappears overnight. Today, we're going to go deeper into chaos management because sometimes the disruption isn't just about personnel changes. Sometimes it's about genuine crisis, a security breach, a merger and acquisition announcement, a leadership shakeup, a product failure that affects multiple customers all at once. The kind of event that makes your phone light up at 6 a.m. and doesn't stop until midnight that night. And when that happens, you're not just managing one account anymore. You're managing a portfolio that's all in crisis mode. And that requires a completely different playbook. Now, let me be clear about something up front. Most CSMs will face a portfolio crisis at least once in their career. Maybe it's a security incident that affects your entire customer base. Maybe it's your customer getting acquired and every customer suddenly wondering what happens to their contract. Maybe it's a critical bug that takes down production systems for, dozens of accounts simultaneously. But whatever it is, the moment hits and you're going to feel it. Your inbox is going to explode. Your Slack is going to blow up. Your calendar will fill with emergency calls. And you're going to have to make decisions quickly about who gets your attention first, what you communicate, and how to keep 20, 30, maybe 50 accounts from going red all at the same time. I've been through this multiple times. One time at Cofense, we had a security incident that required immediate notification to every customer using our phishing simulation platform. At Deepwatch, we had a service disruption that affected our SOC operations for enterprise customers who depended on us for 24/7, 365 monitoring. And at Palo Alto Networks, I watched a production bug just cascade through accounts worth millions in ARR, all of them demanding answers at the same time. So I'm going to walk you through exactly how to handle it. Not theory, not what should work, what does work when everything's on fire and you've got 30 accounts to manage with the same 24 hours that everyone else gets. Here's what most CSMs get wrong in a crisis. They try to treat every account the same. They send the same canned message to everyone. They schedule the same emergency call for all affected customers. They think that fairness means equal treatment. And that approach fails every single time. Because not all accounts are created equal during a crisis. A $2 million strategic account with a renewal in 30 days needs far different handling than a $50,000 account that's 8 months into a 2-year contract. A customer with a compliance audit next week needs different attention than one running business as usual. A vocal executive sponsor who escalates to your CEO needs different communication than an IT manager who trusts you to handle it. So the first thing you do in a portfolio crisis is triage. And I mean real triage, not the fake version where you pretend everyone's equally important because you're afraid of making hard choices. You need 3 categories. Critical accounts that get immediate personal attention. And then standard accounts that get structured communication and monitoring. And stable accounts that get proactive updates but can wait. Critical accounts are the ones where the crisis creates immediate business risk. Renewals in the next 90 days, executive escalations, compliance-sensitive customers, strategic partnerships, accounts that are already at risk before the crisis hit. High visibility clients where failure becomes a public problem. These accounts get your direct attention first, not your team's attention, your attention. Now, the standard accounts are affected but not immediately at risk of churn. They need clear communication and responsive support, but they can operate within your normal escalation protocols. You're monitoring them closely, but you're not dropping everything for every ping. And your stable accounts are minimally affected or have strong relationships that can weather short-term disruption. They get proactive communication and status updates, but they're not your primary focus during the acute crisis phase. Here's how this plays out in real life. At one company, we had a Saturday morning SOC platform outage, complete failure of continuous security monitoring for customers who'd bought around-the-clock protection. I had about 40 accounts, 3 hours before most would notice. I triaged it immediately. 6 critical tier accounts got personal phone calls within the first hour. 3 up for renewal, 2 with active security incidents, 1 government agency with compliance requirements. I explained what happened, gave realistic timelines, and told them exactly how we were handling their specific situation. I had 12 standard tier accounts, and they got personalized email within 2 hours with situation details. It had impact, timeline, and also my direct contact. 7 stable tier accounts in implementation got proactive notifications within 4 hours. The remaining accounts, they weren't affected, so they got no communication. Creating panic where there isn't any, it just damages trust. Within 6 hours, every critical account had personal touch points. Within 12 hours, every affected customer had clear communication. Within 24 hours, service was restored and I'd completed follow-up with the critical accounts. Not a single one of those accounts churned. 3 critical tier accounts expanded services the following quarter just because of how we handled things in this crisis. Now, here's what made that approach work. Within 6 hours, the critical tier accounts all had personal touch points from me. Within 12 hours, every affected customer had received clear communication about status and timeline. And within 24 hours, when the service was restored, I'd completed follow-up calls with every critical account and sent closure notifications to everyone else. Not a single account churned from that incident. And again, 3 of those critical tier accounts actually expanded services in the following quarter just because of how we handled that crisis. That is the power of triage. You don't treat everyone the same. You allocate your time based on the business impact and the relationship risk. And you communicate that prioritization through your actions. Now let's talk about communication during a crisis, because this is where most CSMs either save the relationship or they destroy it. The biggest mistake people make is waiting until they have all the answers before they communicate. They think customers want complete information, so they just delay sending anything until they can provide a full briefing. That's wrong. In a crisis, customers want 3 things, and they want it immediately. They want to know that you're aware of the problem, that you're working on it, and when they'll hear from you next. They don't need root cause analysis or prevention plans. They need to know that you see them and you're not disappearing. Your first communication goes out within the first hour. Here's my template. I'm reaching out immediately regarding the issue affecting your service. I understand this is creating a disruption for your team, and I want to give you a clear picture of our response and our timeline. Here's what we know right now. Here's what we're doing about it. And here's when you will hear from us next. Notice what's not in there. No apologies yet. No detailed technical explanations. No promises that you can't keep. Just acknowledgement, action, and follow-up commitment. You send that to your critical tier first, personally. Each customer gets individual communication that acknowledges their specific situation. Then you follow up when you said that you would. If you told them 4 hours, you update them in 4 hours, even if nothing's changed. You keep your commitment to communicate, because that's how you maintain trust when everything else is broken. And here's what most CSMs miss. You communicate differently based on who you're talking to. Technical stakeholders want specifics around what broke and how you're fixing it. Executive stakeholders want business impact, and they want to know what you're doing to protect their operations. Operational stakeholders want workarounds that they can use right now. You don't send the same message to all 3 audiences. Now let's talk about internal coordination during a crisis, because you can't manage a portfolio crisis alone. You need engineering, you need support, you need sales, you need leadership. And if you don't coordinate them all properly, they'll make things worse. Here's what happens when coordination breaks down. Engineering sends technical updates directly to the customers. Sales creates concern by asking if everything's okay before customers even noticed. Support gives different timelines than customer success. Leadership makes commitments you can't deliver. Suddenly you're managing a communication crisis caused by your own team. You need internal coordination protocols before the crisis hits. If you don't have them, you build them in the first hour. Establish a single source of truth, usually a shared document or a Slack channel where engineering posts their statuses, their timelines, their impact information. Everyone pulls from this source. Define communication ownership. Customer success owns customer communication. Engineering owns the technical resolution. Leadership owns executive escalations. Everyone stays in their lane. Create an internal update cadence. Every 4 hours, the crisis team syncs. Engineering provides status. Customer success reports sentiment and escalations. Leadership makes resource decisions. Document everything. Every customer interaction, every commitment, every timeline. You need facts for the postmortem, not memory. Let me give you a real example from one company. We discovered a critical vulnerability in our firewall software requiring emergency patching across our entire customer base. Security risk, not service disruption. Every customer needed immediate attention. My portfolio included several financial service customers with strict change management windows. They couldn't just patch everything immediately. They had regulatory requirements. They had testing protocols, approval processes. I needed engineering to give me vulnerability details in language that security teams could use to justify emergency change requests. I needed sales coordination because several customers were mid-negotiation. I needed support ready for implementation questions. We established coordination immediately. Engineering created an FAQ with technical details and deployment guidance. Customer success reviewed it and added customer-facing sections. Sales briefed their account executives on positioning. Support staffed up. Then we coordinated notifications. Critical accounts got personal calls before the announcement. Standard accounts got detailed emails with the FAQ. We published a broader security advisory. The result of this, 97% patched within 72 hours. 3 escalations, all resolved in 24 hours. Renewal rates maintained because customers saw professional crisis handling. That's what good internal coordination looks like. Everyone knows their role. Everyone works from the same information. And the customer experience is consistent across every touch point. Now let's talk about what happens after the immediate crisis passes. Most CSMs think the crisis is over when the technical problem is solved. It's not. The crisis is over when your customers say it's over. And that might be weeks after you restored service. During a crisis, customers are all in reaction mode. They don't have time to process how they feel about your company or whether this changes their long-term plans. That processing happens maybe 2 to 4 weeks later. That's when you're most vulnerable to churn. Customers start asking themselves whether they trust you, whether this is going to happen again, whether they should evaluate alternatives. Your job is to shape those answers before they solidify into decisions. Within 2 weeks of resolution, schedule post-crisis debriefs with your critical accounts. Not to defend yourself, but to listen. Ask how the incident affected their business. Ask what could have been better, what they need going forward to rebuild confidence. And then document their feedback and act on it. Show them that you heard them by changing something based on what they told you. new notification protocols, service level commitments around response times, maybe more frequent check-ins for the next quarter, whatever each customer needs to feel secure in the relationship again. You do this proactively. You don't wait for them to tell you the relationship needs repair. Here's something else that happens in portfolio crises. You're going to have to make decisions about which customers don't get what they want. 20 accounts demanding immediate attention when you can only give it to 6. Customers asking for service credits you can't all approve. Engineering resources that just aren't available. You can't be everything to everyone during a crisis. You prioritize based on the same 3 factors from triage: business impact, relationship risk, and strategic value. The $2 million account renewing next month gets priority over the $100,000 account renewing next year. That's math. It's not personal preference. Sometimes that means telling a customer they're not getting expedited response time. Sometimes it means their service credit follows standard approval processes. Sometimes their requested engineering commitment isn't available. You deliver those messages professionally and honestly. You don't make promises you can't keep. You tell them what you can do, what you can't do, and what alternatives exist. You don't apologize for making business decisions. You acknowledge the disappointment. You explain the constraints. You offer alternatives, but you don't grovel. Because customers respect clarity and honesty more than they respect weak promises made under pressure. All right, here's what you need to remember about managing a portfolio during a crisis. Triage ruthlessly. Critical accounts get your personal focus. Standard accounts get structured communication. Stable accounts get proactive updates. Allocate time based on business impact and relationship risk. Communicate fast and often. First message within the first hour. Tell customers you see it, you're working on it, and when they'll hear next. Keep that commitment every time. Coordinate internally before you communicate externally. Single source of truth, clear ownership, update cadences, document everything. Customize by stakeholder type. Technical audiences get technical details, executive audiences get business impact, operational audiences, they get workarounds. Plan for relationship recovery after technical resolution. The crisis ends when customers say it ends. Schedule post-crisis debriefs. Ask for feedback. Act on what you learn. Make business decisions without apology. You can't give everyone everything they want. Prioritize based on business logic. Communicate decisions clearly and professionally. That's the playbook. I've used it through security incidents, service disruptions, product issues, and organizational changes. It's not perfect, but it gives you a framework to operate from when everything feels chaotic. Now, if you want templates for crisis communication, I've got them. The CS Bootcamp book has an entire section on emergency response protocols, including initial acknowledgement scripts, technical stakeholder updates, and executive communication templates, and also post-crisis debrief guides. You can grab that on Amazon. I've also got a crisis triage worksheet that helps you categorize your accounts based on business impact and relationship risk. It's a simple spreadsheet, but it forces you to make the hard prioritization decisions before you're in the middle of the chaos. So in our next episode, we're going to talk about something that's related but different. It's the art of saying no as a CSM. Because during a crisis, you're going to get asked for things that you just can't deliver. And outside of crises, you're going to have customers and internal stakeholders making requests that aren't reasonable. They aren't possible. Or they just aren't your job. We're going to talk about how to set boundaries without damaging trust, how to decline gracefully, and how to redirect requests to the right place without looking like you're passing the buck. Because one of the hardest skills in customer success is knowing when to say no and saying it in a way that preserves the relationship. Until then, here's what I'd recommend. If you've never experienced a portfolio crisis, don't wait until you're in one to think about your approach. Take some time, maybe an hour this week, and do a crisis scenario exercise. Pick a realistic crisis for your industry, a security breach, a service outage, maybe a product bug that's affecting multiple customers, and walk through how you triage your portfolio. Which accounts would be critical? What would your first communication look like? How would you coordinate with your internal team? Do that work now while you've got time to think clearly. Because when the crisis actually hits, you won't have time to figure it out. You'll need to operate from muscle memory. And if you have experienced a portfolio crisis, take some time to document what worked and what didn't. Write down your communication templates while they're still fresh. Document your triage criteria. Capture your lessons learned, because that knowledge is valuable for you and the CSMs around you who might face something similar. That's the work. So follow the show if you haven't already. Check out clearpathcx.com for the crisis management templates, as well as other CS resources, and connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/Mark Bernardin. If this episode helped you think about how you'd handle crisis situations in your portfolio, send me a message. I'd love to hear about it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing this work. And thank you for showing up and delivering every single day. I'll talk to you soon.